Ready, Shane?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, at this time, and I know that we've had previous motions on this matter to exclude this witness, but at this time the defense would request a mistrial. It has become evident and clear that Martha Jane Barton has broken the rule of sequestration, and she has watched court TV and various apps and YouTube, and it has controlled what testimony that she is about to testify to today. She has seen every bit of this trial, and she is going to come forth and she is going to so taint this trial in front of that jury that my client cannot receive a fair trial. She is so prejudiced that we cannot overcome it. So at this point, Your Honor, I would simply ask for a mistrial.
Judge, I think you've already ruled on this. It's not, if there is a violation, first of all, she was on each party's witness list. She was never subpoenaed by either party. There was an informal agreement that if we needed her, she could testify by Zoom. No one technically did anything to make her a witness. She was mentioned, so I don't think she's in a technical violation of the rule of sequestration, but I trust that she's going to be so candid and authentic when she testifies. I'm not concerned about the court charging however the court would like. I think any motion for a mistrial is not right. And also, as the court has already discussed and entertained and heard the law, that any type of violation of the rule of sequestration would go to the weight and credibility of the witness and would not go to the admissibility. I understand that the defense does not want Martha Jane to testify in front of this jury, and I clearly understand the concern that they have with that, but that ultimately would be a question for the jury, not for the parties.
I think we established previously that no one actually had subpoenaed her. Is that correct?
That's right. We didn't subpoena her.
And no one, and no one specifically gave her any instruction on what she could or could not do as far as watching any of the events.
To my knowledge, no, Your Honor, but I can put her under oath and we could ask her also.
Well, that's probably a good idea. Let's do that.
All right. Ms. Martha, would you can stay seated. Don't get up. Raise your right hand if you would, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to present in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Ms. Martha, state your full name for the record.
Martha Jane Barton.
We're going to ask you some preliminary questions, not going into the other stuff, but in all fairness, the judge and the attorneys would like to know, did you ever receive a subpoena in this case?
No.
No one served you with any documents or anything?
No.
I think you talked to our office with Ms. Frankish one time over the phone.
I did.
A couple of weeks beforehand. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, did you talk to any of the defense attorneys?
No. And
did you hear from anyone else in the case about this case prior to trial?
I have not.
That's all I have to say.
All right. Okay, any additional argument, Mr. Weaver?
Additional argument. As this issue of having to be under subpoena for sequestration, I don't think the law is actually clear on that, so we do not accept that that is what we must follow. Of course, that can be taken up in another court at a different time, but we still, of course, object to that premise by the court. And furthermore, if she is allowed to testify, we are requesting, and we need to put this on the record, we are requesting a charge to read to the jury before her testimony, letting the jury know that she broke the rule of sequestration, and she has watched this trial, and you are to determine the weight and the credibility of the witness.
Judge, may I reply?
No, that's all right. She was a potential witness, a named witness, but was never served a subpoena. It probably would have been best for her to receive some instruction to not watch the proceedings, although I don't know that that is another issue that none of us have gone through before, and maybe next time we will do it a little bit differently. But there was definitely no intentional violation by the state that would justify a mistrial. I'm not inclined to grant a curative instruction or anything saying that she violated any rule of sequestration, since she was not informed that she could not contact anyone or watch the proceedings or anything. I will let y'all cross-examine her to the extent that y'all wish to about any or all of that. And I'm not going to restrict any of that. Y'all can ask her any questions about anything that she's seen or where she got her information from or any of that stuff is fair game. But I think it's appropriate for cross. Y'all can ask her that she knew that she could potentially be as a witness, and that whether or not she thought it was a good idea to watch it, or any of that kind of stuff. I think is fair game.
Judge, we've learned from this too, because we notified the ones on our list that we provide the defense about not contacting anything outside of that.
I haven't instructed a single witness as they left the stand to not watch the proceedings on. And I probably should have done that. Anyway, we'll do it all differently maybe next time we have one of these. All right. Anything else?
That's all, Your Honor.
All right, bring them in.
And Judge, just for the record, I will re-swear in.
Yes, that's fine. And ma'am, you can just scoot up just a little bit. You don't have to lean into the microphone. It'll get you if you just stay about that distance. And there's a Bible over there if you want to use it on the corner.
Oh, okay.
There's water.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Focus, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. This time, state calls Martha Jane Barton. Ms. Barton, you can remain seated. Just raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear affirm that the evidence you're about to present in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Put your hand down. Ms. Martha, I want you to get comfortable. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, and when I'm done, the defense counsel is going to ask you questions. I think it's going to be Mr. Ray that's going to ask questions. If you can't hear what we say or anything like that, just let me know, okay?
Okay.
Tell this jury your full name for us, please.
Martha Jane Barton.
And spell your name for us, if you would, please.
B as in boy. A-R-T-O-N.
And don't give me your address, but tell me the city you're from.
Tullahoma, Tennessee.
You're going to have to spell Tullahoma for us.
Tullahoma.
Ms. Martha, tell the jury about how big of a city Tullahoma is.
It's about 18,000, maybe a few more.
And how old are you today?
84.
84. How long have you lived in Tullahoma?
Practically all my life.
Do you consider it your home?
Oh, yes.
Now, if I asked you how many people in Tullahoma you know, how many you think you know?
Well, not as many as I used to, but I'm sure to come out. I worked at a bank, the same bank, for over 53 years. And growing up there, I know quite a few. And if I don't know the person, I probably know their parents and grandparents.
Now, Tullahoma, how many stoplights and things like that? They have big stores, little stores?
We're growing. We have several stoplights, and we're growing with stores that we have a Publix, Hobby Lobby, Marshall's, Ulta. We have a Ross.
You have an Aldi's?
An Aldi,
Okay.
of course, Kroger's,
And
several banks.
several banks. Now, is it my understanding that you like purses and shoes?
Who told you that? Yes, I do.
Okay. What type of brand of purses do you like?
I guess I have more Michael Kors, but I have.
You have a lot.
Yeah, I have a lot. I
And
have too many.
Now, when you're in Tullahoma, do you have an opportunity to go out much these days? Or
Not now. For about, with COVID, and then since then I've had a lot of health issues, and so I don't get to go out.
Would you just tell the jury about? I know you have some heart issues. Just briefly, what kind of heart issues have you had? I'm going to ask you some questions later on, but just tell us about that.
Open heart surgery with aorta valve replacement, and then about a week later I had to have a pacemaker put in. And I still have heart issues. I have another valve that's giving me problems now. I've had COVID twice. Since then, I've developed COPD and emphysema, and that's why my voice is like it is. I also have macular degeneration and have to have injections in my eyes.
Okay. Did you take your medicine today?
Pardon?
Did you take your medicine today?
I did.
All right. If I start going too fast, sometimes I get going fast, just raise your hand and I'll slow down, all right?
Okay.
Tell me, what kind of education do you have?
1 year of college.
What did you study in college?
Well, actually, I meant to study psychology in the first year. I didn't, and then I quit and went to work at the bank. We were neighbors to the people that back then, they owned the bank. And so one day I was in there, and the president of the bank asked me if I'd like a job. So I took the job and stayed.
When you started working at the bank, what kind of job did you start with, and what did you end up doing?
Oh, well, back then you started posting accounts. And
what's posting accounts? I don't know what that means.
well, checks and deposits, the people's checks.
Okay.
And their deposits, and all the accounts are everything was done like a ledger, like A's and B's and C's and D's, like that. So
like a book ledger, old paper ledger?
Oh no, you had a cardboard, a heavy piece of paper that you'd put down in the machine, and so you would put in the checks to take off and add the deposits. And then I went from that to running the proof machine, which
a proof machine?
Which proves the work that goes through.
Okay.
Then I started as teller. Then I went to being over all the tellers and over the vault. Went then to doing just CDs and IRAs. And then the last, I think, 16 years, I was a branch manager.
Okay, you managed the bank? Did you enjoy that?
I did.
Did you like working at the bank?
I did. I like being with people.
Are you a people person?
I am.
Now, did you work, you said 53 years at the bank? Is that pretty much the main place that you worked?
Well, I started out at the old building. They built a new one. And then after that, I went down to the branch. So actually, I worked in 3 different buildings.
How many people kind of were employed when you started, and how many people did it grow to, the bank?
Oh, we started out with probably 10 or so, maybe 12. And there were over 40 when I left.
Did you know them all?
And I did. That's how I know half of Oklahoma. They'd have worked at the bank at one time or another.
They come in and see you. Now, do you go by Martha Jane sometimes too?
Mostly Martha. Yeah, Martha Jane's fine.
Okay. Now, I've heard that you go by something else. I was just told, Ms. Monica told me this morning, I think I caught it yesterday when we were talking, but do you go by Marty also?
Marnie.
Okay. Is that, how do you distinguish when someone calls you Martha Jane versus Marty? What does that mean to you?
Martha Jane is the people that I knew a long, long time ago, family.
Okay.
When my nephew was born, and he just turned 59, and his mother and daddy referred to me as Aunt Martha, or Aunt Martha Jane, he started calling me Marnie. And so really for about 13 years, his sister wasn't born until he was almost 13. And he wouldn't let anybody else call me Marnie. He said, she's my Marnie, not yours. So then when his sister was born, he let her call me that. And so then, well, Roy and I had already married, and then when the grandchildren came along, I insisted that they call me Marnie.
Now, has some people referred to you as MJ? You ever heard that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I would probably call you Miss Martha if that's okay.
It's okay.
All right. What church do you go to?
Church of Christ.
How big is that? How big is the congregation?
About 175.
And is this a church where it's a lot of family and people you're related to?
No, a few, but not really. It's church family.
At one point, did Rusty go there?
He did.
Yeah, we know who Rusty is. So
Yes.
I'm going to refer to Roy Barton Jr. as Rusty.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it comes to your health, did you have to have some surgeries, open heart surgery?
I did. In
How many of those?
2014.
In 2014?
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you go to get that done?
St. Thomas, Nashville.
How'd they do? How'd they do with that? Was it good?
Oh yeah, it turned. Yeah.
And,
Except for having to have the pacemaker put in.
But your day-to-day life is now kind of the same since you're retired. You just try to take it easy.
Very. No, you don't set an alarm clock.
Now, Miss Martha, are you senile?
I hope not.
How's your memory these days?
Well, I went to my doctor about 3 months ago, and I thought I was having trouble remembering names.
Uh-huh.
And these were people's names that I had known years ago, and I'd think of them. And so when I went in, I told the nurse that I wanted some memory pills. And she said, well, he'll give you a memory test. Well, she actually did it. And it was 30 questions. And he came in the room and he said, Martha, why did you want that? You aced the test. So said, well, I can't remember names. And he said, well, you're not around people. And these were people, I said, I was paid to remember names. And he said, well, those were people that you were in contact with every day. So he helped my feelings.
Good. I want to talk about your late husband.
Okay.
And I know
I like to talk about it.
I know you do like to talk about Mr. Roy. So let's talk about Mr. Roy. Roy Barton Sr. If you would, just tell the jury when you met him. What year was that?
I had known him. My sister had worked with him several years before. And in 1975, I went to a class reunion, and he was there with another girl. And I promise you, I did not flirt with him. I don't even know. I mean, I know I spoke to him. But then that was on a Saturday night. Sunday afternoon, he called me. And my first thing, no, you know, you're going with someone else. And he assured me that they weren't in any permanent, steady, engaged relationship.
They weren't going steady with her, huh?
No, but I still wouldn't go out. I said no. So he told me that he had come home talking about me, and Rusty, who I had known since he was a little boy because of coming in the bank, had said, Daddy, call Martha. And then he said, he just left, and he said, don't forget to call Martha. Well, I thought, well, if he said it was okay, you know, it was okay. But he came out to my house, and we talked on the phone for 2 or 3 weeks.
What year did y'all get married?
We married in 75.
75. How old
Oh,
was he?
yeah, when we got started, he was very pushy about, he proposed, and
How long were y'all married?
almost 39 years.
And how old was Rusty when y'all got
He
married?
was 22 or 23.
And did Rusty live with y'all in the beginning?
He did.
And Rusty is he, I guess technically your stepson, but are you close to him?
I am.
Do you love him?
I do. He's been very good to me.
Are you? How's it going to be when you have to talk to him again?
I don't know.
Not looking forward to that?
I'm not.
Now, I want to ask you some questions. Melody Walker Farris here. Do you see her in court today?
I do.
Do you love her?
I do.
I want to ask you some things about her. But can you tell the jury, I think you described it as you were from a small family. What's that mean when you were from small? When it relates to how you take Kay Walker and Melody, how's that work?
My mother only had one brother, and my daddy didn't have any brothers and sisters. So mother's brother had one daughter who was Melody's mother.
That's Kay Walker?
Kay.
All right.
She was my only first cousin. And we were very close. Very, very close. I loved her like a sister.
Was there a time that you and were living and Kay and Melody came to the house and lived a little bit, or not in your house, but did Kay live with your family at some point?
No.
And was there a time that even when you were older that you would spend time with Melody?
Oh, yes. When I first started working at the bank, well, I didn't marry until I was 35. So when Melody was born, I was 20. And then when they moved to Nashville, the bank would be closed on Thursday. So very often I would go down on Wednesday night and stay on Thursday with them, and sometimes even go for the weekend.
Miss Martha, do you like Willie Nelson?
I do.
When's the last time you saw Willie Nelson in concert?
When Melody came and took me to see him in Atlanta.
Do you remember what year that was?
It was probably 2017, 2018. Gary hadn't died.
Was it a good concert?
Oh, yes.
Would y'all do things like that often? Just go and do
No,
stuff?
that's the only time we ever went to a concert.
And who went with you to that one? Was it just you and Melody, or?
Amanda and Chad, and then a friend of, it was a couple that was a friend of theirs.
Amanda, her daughter, and Chad Bruce, her now husband?
Mm-hmm.
How would you describe the defendant's, Melody's energy level?
She was like my mom, my grandmother, which would have been her great-grandmother.
How so?
My mom was never still, and Melody wasn't. She worked, she kept a good house. Her yard was southern living, and when she would come up to my house, she would do things for me.
What type of things?
She brought her power washer and washed the patio, the front sidewalk. She did all my patio furniture. She repainted it. She helped me clean out. We have a separate garage, and we got a dumpster, and she helped me clean that out after my husband died.
Melody's family, right?
She is family.
Would you welcome her could she come into your house even when you weren't there?
Oh, yeah.
Did she have a key to your house?
She did.
Did you try to limit her access to your house in any way?
No, she was very good to come up at, my husband had one stroke, and he got better from that. But he also was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And then he had several sick spells, and where he'd be in and out of the hospital. And then he had a second stroke and had to go to the hospital and never came back. But she came and took me to Nashville for my doctor's appointments. And my cardiologist in Tullahoma arranged for me to have as many things done in Tullahoma as I could. He knew the situation. I had been a patient of his, my mother and my husband had. And so for convenience sake, but for those things that I had to have done, she took me to Nashville for that.
Because of her energy level, did you ever say to her she needed to get her thyroid checked?
I did. She was the Energizer Bunny.
Does she like to clean?
She does.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most immaculate, loves to clean, and 1 being as dirty as you can be, where would you put her on her
10 and a half.
Now, did you know Gary Ferris?
I did.
What'd you think about him?
I like Gary.
How many years did you know him?
Well, since I got married.
So about 38 or so?
We, you know, we went for periods of time that we weren't around them as often, but we went down for when Chris and Scott was born. Of course, then they moved to Birmingham, and during that period, we didn't see them as often. But no, I was very fond of Gary.
Was Gary good to you, bad to you, or something else?
He was always nice. He came to Tullahoma to visit us a few times. Of course, she came more, but no, he came too.
How would you describe how Melody felt about Gary?
In later years, they were distant.
Ms. Martha, let me ask you a little bit more straightforward. How would you describe the word, what would you use to describe her heart feelings towards Gary at the end of their marriage?
There was no love there.
When Melody would come see you in Tullahoma, would she stay with you or somewhere else?
She stayed with me as far as I know.
How much did you see her interact with Rusty?
I didn't. You know, when Roy was in the hospital, there would be times that he would be sicker and she would, you know, with my health, this was before surgery, she would say, you know, you going home and I'll stay. And a little while, and Rusty would be there.
Did you know about them?
No. And
I'm not going to ask you anything more.
okay.
Now, I think you were able to talk to law enforcement twice in this case. Is that right?
Yes.
Were you able to go back and listen to? I wanted you to listen to those recordings. Did you listen to those?
I did.
Did you remember much of what was said in, or did you forgotten some of it?
After I heard it, I remembered. I didn't before.
Do you remember when I think was the first law enforcement that came out and talked to you, was it the TBI?
It was.
How were they? I think that was July 6th of 2018.
I don't know what date, but they came.
Would it be?
It was at night.
After what was going on with Gary?
Yes.
Okay. Just tell the jury, how were they with you?
They were very nice. They mostly asked personal things, you know.
Do you remember it was a tall, a short guy about my size and a tall lady? Do you remember them?
I do.
Do you remember their names? I didn't actually remember names.
I do not remember their names.
Were they mean to you?
No.
I'm just asking. Now, when you talk to
They
them,
were kind of,
go ahead.
no, they weren't mean.
Were
mean,
you nervous?
I was nervous.
You ever talked to law enforcement like that before?
In the bank, a lot of times, or I wouldn't say a lot of times, but very, on occasion, we would have an officer, an FBI agent come in and flip his badge over to you to ask something, and it was like, yes, sir, you know, what can I do for you?
Now, you were a little hesitant to talk to law enforcement about what happened to Gary, what you knew?
I was.
Tell the jury why you were hesitant.
I had been told that an attorney had told me not to talk.
Who specifically told you not to talk to law enforcement?
Melody told me that the attorney told her.
But did you end up talking to them? Did you talk to them when they were there?
I did.
Did you know any facts or details what had happened to Gary the first time you talked to the two?
No.
Did anyone tell you facts and details about what had happened at that time?
They told me what I suggested wasn't true.
And what at that time did you know? When you
I
talked
knew
to
that
them?
he had died in a burn pile.
Did you know anything about a bullet?
No.
Did Rusty give you information?
No.
Did
No, not then.
And did you talk in detail with Rusty about what happened?
No.
Did you talk in detail with Melody about what happened?
She would not really in detail. No, not. I never asked the details because she insinuated that he just found him. So I thought I believed her.
You had no other reason to? You had no other evidence, right?
No.
Judge, this time on the tender evidence states M. Barton 1 through 16, if there's no objection. All the exhibits. 1 through 16.
All right, amen.
Ms. Martha Jane, I'm going to put up on this is something that you provided us very recently. Can you see this?
Can you read it?
Let me give you a. May I approach Ms. Martha?
I can see it here.
You can say it, please.
Oh, yeah.
Let me give this. It may be easier. Now, this is a piece of paper that you gave to us. Is that right?
Right. They had asked me, the Cherokee people had asked me about the phone calls. And I had told, so I went back on my phone, it's there, and looked back to see when the dates that we had talked. And I went back to July the 4th.
Okay, is that first one?
I had no idea that it happened the 3rd. So I went back on the 4th, and on that first occasion, I had called her about a recipe.
Hobo beans?
Yeah. I didn't know if you drained the beans or not. I was going to make it to take to a church on July the 4th. They were going to do hot dogs and hamburgers, and we were going to take sides.
Okay.
So I thought, well, that'll be a good recipe, but I didn't know if you needed to drain the beans. And that was my conversation.
And then these are the other dates that you found in your
Then these were
records?
the others. She had called on the 5th twice,
Okay.
and that was from her phone. And then the 6th, she called me from Jackie's phone.
All right.
And then the 6th from Amanda, 6th from Jackie,
All right.
7th, twice on the 7th from Jackie, twice on the 8th from Amanda, and on the 9th from Amanda.
All right. And then you put this down on,
I
wrote it on the back of one of your
I had
box of stuff,
ordered
looks like.
something, hadn't I? Imagine that. But I did this because they had asked, and I didn't know if they'd come back. And of course, the phone doesn't hold that forever.
Now, because of rules of evidence and things like that,
we tend to listen to the recordings and things like that, but I noticed that, you remember when the TBI was there on July 6th in July, the first time you talked to them. When they were leaving, you asked somebody about, you asked them, did they know a Jason? Remember that?
I did.
Who's Jason?
He's an investigator for Coffee County. I know him. I know his mother. I know his grandparents. I know his aunt and uncle. And so
You just had
I just said, do you know Jason Denby? And, oh yeah, they knew him.
They knew. Now on, I believe July 10th of 2018, the second date, after you talked to the TBI, some detectives from Cherokee County, Georgia came out and talked to you. Do you remember that?
They did.
Do you remember Detective Hayes?
I remember the name.
Remember Pope and Hayes?
I do.
What was Detective Pope like?
Well, he was nice.
Did you have a good conversation?
I thought so.
Were you still under the same impression that you weren't supposed to be talking to him?
I was.
Did you talk to him though?
I did.
You didn't know much more details though?
Oh, I didn't know anything else.
Now, I want to ask you, and it's okay, I want you to just tell the jury, have you been watching the trial on TV?
I don't get up until about 10 in the morning, and you all are an hour ahead of us, so I would usually start about, now this was, well, first of all, your office called me and asked me some questions and told me, or asked me if I knew the trial was starting. That was a shock.
Okay.
I did not know that. So that's the way I knew it was going to be on, but I didn't know.
You're talking about weeks before the trial when we talked.
Right,
Okay.
right. Well, then someone called me and told me I didn't know about Court TV, and they told me. So I looked and finally found that may not even have been the first day.
How'd you look?
I have a Kindle, and I Googled.
Well, Miss Martha, that's not true, is it? You don't have a Kindle. How many Kindles you got?
Well, I have two. I have two of everything.
Did you bring the two with you
I did.
to read? All right. So did you Google it or something?
I Googled Court TV, Melody Walker Farris, Cherokee County, and I finally found, and I don't even know what the first was, and like I said, this would have been after 10 o'clock.
How much of the trial have you, now,
I did, and then let's see, this is the third week, is it?
yes ma'am.
Oh, I didn't watch any after I talked to you all.
Talking about last week?
Yeah.
Did we tell you to stop watching?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Up to that point, had anybody told you not to watch it?
No,
Okay. And did you see Rusty testify?
I saw part of his testimony.
How did that make you feel?
Disappointed.
After seeing Rusty testify, did you make a phone call to Cherokee County?
I did.
How did you, who did you call?
Well, I Googled Cherokee County Detention Center, and it came up 3 names, sheriff and their number. I don't remember the second, and then the criminal investigator, and I called that number.
How were you feeling when you called that number?
Awful. I had a heavy, heavy heart.
Did you sleep the night before?
I have worried about this for a long time.
Do you remember who I think that was last Friday, October 18th, is that when you called Today's
I
Friday.
believe so. I believe it was a week ago today.
Now, I have around 10 o'clock our time, so it'll be about 9 o'clock your time. Is that about right? Do you remember who you talked to at the sheriff's office?
Detective Hand.
Hand? Hand, thank you. Now, how was he to you?
He was very nice. He told me his name. I didn't even tell him my name. I think I started out with, I have a heavy heart. And then I told him that I had a gun that was missing. And then
Let me
he
talk.
asked me my name.
Yes, ma'am. Let me talk to you about some guns. I want to talk about. Now, Roy Sr. was a jokester, wasn't he?
Yes.
I want to turn your attention, I believe, and you tell me if it's not right or if it's around that time. I want to turn your attention to, well, before I get there, did you buy Mr. Roy a certain type of pistol?
I did. I bought him a .357 Magnum.
Do you remember what year you bought that pistol for him?
No. No, I don't.
Do you remember
It would have been.
what decade are we dealing with?
It would have been probably in the early 80s.
Okay. You remember where you got it from?
No, probably, but I don't remember exactly. We had a gun shop out of Winchester, which was a neighboring town. A Ray Judge that everybody went and bought guns from. And so you men have a way of hinting and telling what you want. This was the second gun that I had bought there for him. And the first, I got my uncle, Melody's grandfather, to go with me to buy a Remington. I should know, I knew 1100, I think. You dove hunt with it.
Okay.
And you can skeet shoot with it.
Now, did Mr. Roy like to hunt?
Oh, yes. Yes.
What kind of hunt did he like to do?
Well, turkey, dove, deer. When he was growing up, squirrels and rabbits.
Did he and Rusty ever go hunt together?
They did. They dove hunted every year. They deer hunted, turkey hunted, and then they made 3 trips to Canada, black bear and caribou.
You told me yesterday, I think, well, the first time you and I ever met in person.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And was I nice to you? Was I nice to you?
You were very nice.
And you told me about Mr. Roy had a long shot one time. What was that?
Oh, it was over 600 yards for a caribou
Where was that at? You remember what country?
in Newfoundland.
Now, at some point, now I want to turn your attention to, I believe, maybe 1979 at Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to Mr. Roy being a kind of a kid or a jokester, did you get a unique Christmas gift that year?
I did.
Was Rusty there?
Yes.
First of all, tell us how you would celebrate Christmas with a different family. What was y'all's procedure?
Christmas Eve, we celebrated with Roy's mother and daddy. And then on Sunday before Christmas, we would celebrate with his children. And then as they had grandchildren or had children. And then on Christmas Day with my family. And this particular year, Roy gave me, and he had gone and wrapped this. I know he took the paper at his mother's because my Christmas presents were wrapped that matched the tree. And this was his red and white paper. And he gave me the box, and it was heavy. And I opened it up, and there was a gun on top, but there was a brick in the box. And he had the gun, Well, of course, he had to tell me what kind it was.
Okay, what kind of gun was it?
It was a .38 special, and he said it was called a Saturday night special. Saturday night.
Was it a long barrel or short barrel?
Short.
How short?
Oh, it was very short, and he told me that I could use it. It was for my protection.
And when you got the gun, did Mr. Roy do anything else with the bullets?
He had rolled up $100 bills, and they were rolled up about like a toothpick and stuck in each cartridge. And of course, he joked that that's the only way he could get away giving me a gun. And that's probably all I saw.
Now, this pistol, did it have a holster?
It didn't then, but he got a holster for it.
What kind of holster was it?
It was just a leathery looking, it wasn't a thick leather, very slick, and it didn't have the belt on it. It was just to put the gun in, so that he wanted me to keep it in my closet. In our bedroom, his closet was on his side, mine was on mine, and he kept his .357 Magnum in his and wanted me to keep mine in mine.
And
I never did touch or hold it. I kept mine under my nightstand
the
where no one
38?
could see it.
You talking about the .38 pistol?
Uh-huh.
But the holster was a leather holster?
It was.
Miss Martha, you said Mr. Roy kept his gun on his side in his closet?
In his closet.
When you called law enforcement, you told them this information you're telling us now, is that right?
Yes.
I had to look it up because I didn't know. Tell them how you described your closet.
Fibber McGee's, and you all may not know, it was an old cartoon, and if you open your closet door, you're liable to get hit in the head with something.
Now let me go back. Your husband, ma'am, I'm sorry, when did he pass away?
2014.
And Mr. Roy did he get sick around that time, or is it a little before?
The day that I went to Nashville to schedule my surgery, he had a second stroke, and from that time on, he was either in the hospital or nursing home.
And would you have to go to doctor's visits and things around that time too?
Mm-hmm.
At some point after Mr. Roy passed away, did Melody come up, or during that time, was she helping you go to a doctor's appointment?
She did.
Was she staying with you during these times?
She did.
Now, after Mr. Roy passed away, tell the jury what you did with the .357 Magnum pistol, Roy's pistol, and your .38 pistol special. Tell the jury what you did with it.
In one of our spare bedrooms, I had it wasn't a cedar chest, but it was a chest type that had quilts, sheets, that sort of thing. And I took those guns and put them in the chest. There was a TV on top of the chest. I don't remember, but I put a lot of stuff on top of the chest so that I didn't think anybody would look in the chest. It was too much trouble.
Did you personally put those in there?
I did.
Just those two guns?
Just those.
Let me show you some photographs. This is the first one in Barton 1.1. Do you recognize, did we come up and pick you up to come to court today?
Yes,
And were you there when they were able to take some photographs of this?
I was.
Tell the jury what this is a photograph of.
This is a gun safe that we have. And I guess because those guns had been upstairs and Roy wanted them for my protection, I put them in the chest instead of in the gun safe.
This is photograph 2 for you. Did you also find some 38 special ammunition?
I did.
Is this the box that looked like?
Yes.
Do you remember what all ammunition you had for the 38 special through the years?
On my shells that were there, it was a box that had a TGY, which is an old, I mean, it hadn't been in business forever. And that's where my shells came from. But they weren't there.
And this is the shells that they opened up while you were there?
Yes.
And that's 4. And then this is Ms. Barton. In Barton 5, those are the box of shells?
Yes.
Judge, I think I've tendered all those in, but I'm going to tender 5 in too.
All right. Objection?
No.
So moved.
Then 6, did the 38 special pistol, I'm going to ask you some questions later on, but just right at the moment, did the pistol go missing?
It did.
Did you start looking for things in your house?
I did.
How much did you tear your house up and things in the house looking for it?
Oh, well, I knew that it was only upstairs. And I looked everywhere. Closets, dressers, chest.
Do you have how many, you don't have any children, ma'am?
I don't.
But you have a niece and nephew are close to you?
I do.
And then, is it Jennifer?
Yes.
Did she encourage you to look before you came down here for us?
Yes.
Did you go back and look through the house again?
We did a complete search.
Does Jennifer love you?
She does.
She want to make sure you look through the house?
Yeah.
Now
she
this is...
even said, she called and said, how did you know it was a 38? Well, Roy told me.
Now this is number 6 for you. It's a photograph of a sock. See that?
I do.
You know whose sock that is?
I don't know whose sock it is. I'm sure it's Roy's. There were some shells down in it, and he would, of course, he had 4 to 11 hunting coats, and hunting, he had a backpack and everything else that you could imagine for hunting.
Did you find anything that has pockets in the hunting clothing?
Yeah, I found that, and peppermint candy. He was so afraid he'd get a coughing spell that he'd always carry peppermint candy with him.
Judge, I'm tendering this in Barton 8, which I thought previously considered just for the record.
All right. Any objection?
No.
All right. So moved.
And Ms. Martha, this is the sock with the bullets that you found in there.
Right.
Did you find any other ammunition for a 38 special in your house?
No.
But you said some were missing? Were some bullets or ammunition missing?
That went with my gun. He bought me a box of shells to go with my gun,
Okay.
and they were missing.
So it's not those boxes of...
No, because it was.
Do you remember
it
the
had
brand
that
of the one?
TGY, which was in the mall, and he just went there and bought the shells for me, but they weren't there.
Do you know what brand they are?
No, I didn't know.
These are the bullets that you found in the sock in the photograph 8. 9, just the safe again. All right. What is this one?
That's a 357 Magnum.
That's Roy's gun.
Yes.
Now, in this photograph 11 for you,
Oh, no. No.
all right, I'll go.
You were supposed
All
to do a
right, Miss
close-up.
Miss Martha, I'm on 12 now. Just tell the jury what that room is.
Have you ever heard of a junk room? I'm trying to go through and get rid of, I'm gonna have to downsize. And I move things in there. But this is the chest at the end of the bed. Now, I've still got things piled on it, but I had a TV and I don't know what else. I would get, or I do get, my nephew Bruce, who is, he's 59, and sorry I told that Bruce. And then my Jennifer, my niece, is a little boy, 15, and so he carries things. They both carry things down and carry to Goodwill for me.
And as we go through this, tell the jury, this is photograph 13. Is it correct you moved your 38 and the 44, your gun and Roy's gun, you put them upstairs in this chest here, is that right, that we see in the photograph?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what year you put those up there?
Yes, it was 2019.
2019 that you put them up there?
No, it was 2019. No, no, I don't remember exactly. It was after Roy died that I put them up there. So it was after 2014
Okay.
that I put them in there. It was 2019 when I discovered they were missing.
Okay, that's what I want to.
The 38 was missing.
What I want to ask you is, and I want to show you a picture. I'm going to go back to it. This is number 13. This is number 14, the photograph. And then, let me back to 14. I'm sorry, Miss Martha. And then, this is 15, just kind of the contents of the chest. As we took them when these were taken recently, right?
Yes.
After the defendant was arrested in 2019, did you go upstairs to do something with the, I guess, TV and other stuff with this chest?
We were taking some things to Goodwill. And so we looked in the chest. And at that time, I had quilts and sheets. And I had it down under. And when we looked, just the 357 Magnum was there.
You said, was there a moment that Melody, before she was arrested, before everything happened with Gary, was there a time that she was at your house and you told her where some things were in your house?
There were, yeah, yes.
Do you remember how you described that to law enforcement, that moment? You said you had a certain type of moment.
When I told her, yes, she was there with Ella, her grandchild. And I mentioned some money that I had in a dresser. And that it was more or less that if I needed something, those things were there.
Did you talk about where your pistols were?
I just told her that the pistols were in there,
And Melody was that.
in that chest.
And do you remember what year that was?
No. Oh, well, yes. It was the year that Emily got married because Ella came up
Now,
in 2016.
when you told the defendant, do you remember how you described that you had a certain type of moment when you told, I apologize, when you told Melody about that? Why did you have some hesitation now looking back on when you told her?
Yes.
Why is that?
Well, it's gone. I don't even know why. Melody and I were very close. She had come and done things for me during this period of time. And before that, she was the only child, baby in our family for 5 years. And my parents divorced when I was in about the 7th grade, and we moved in with my grandparents, who were her great-grandparents. So we had a closer connection because when her mother, grandparents came to see his mother and daddy, we were there. So we were very close.
Did you have
In fact, her grandfather gave me away at my wedding.
Now, outside of the defendant, I think you said Ella, did you tell anybody else where your pistol was?
No.
Specifically in that chest, did you tell anybody?
No.
Did you have a weak moment when you told her where some things were in your house?
I did.
Why was it weak?
Well, looking back on it, it was weak.
After you were watching Rusty testify, did you hear him and me ask him about guns in your home?
Yes.
When you heard that, what did you think?
Boing. I hope they.
Well, let me ask you this way. When you heard that, did you start thinking about the gun?
I thought you would call me. When the two different officers came to question me, they never, well, you heard the tapes, they never asked me if we had any guns. And that was kind of surprising because they seemed to know, about us. But
no one had asked you about
no,
any missing pistols? After hearing Rusty testify, did anybody know you were calling law enforcement?
No, they didn't. It was, no. I just picked up I picked up the Kindle and
Was it weighing on you?
it had been heavy on my heart.
Did you feel like you just had to tell the jury about it?
I felt like it was the right thing to do.
Judge, I might just have one more.
Mr. Ray? Yes, please.
Ms. Parker, you just said that it was the right thing to do, right?
I did.